I was 33 years old, well over 400 pounds, and food was my prison. And then I learned that food had the answer to my questions, and my kitchen had the cure for my disease. When I was 400 plus pounds, and I don't have an exact number because I had actually blown past the scales that all had that weight limit. Life was all about the food. I was deeply struggling with a processed food addiction. There was this little voice inside me that said, if you don't do something, you will not make it to 40 years old. And that's when I really just fell in love with the idea of how can I be my best self? So I was fighting for me and fighting for my health. When I went plant-based, my whole relationship with food changed. I realized how much better I was feeling. I feel like I'm firing on all cylinders. That's magic to me. And the weight just sort of slowly melted away, which is something I never thought was possible. Now, food prepping for me is a joy. I celebrate the quality of the food. It's just very rewarding. Healing starts at home. Mine did. And so can yours.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm super excited today. We're going to have a new format. So we have multiple guests who have some incredible healing stories of autoimmune disease, some ovarian cysts, some very interesting stuff there, and also weight loss, just feeling better, as you guys all know. So let me welcome everyone. I've got Lexa Treml. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. And we have Kimberly Herbert. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How about yourself?
Very good. Very good. And Carl Zingle, how are you today?
Pretty damn good.
All right. Very good. And this is going to be a fun group. I can just tell. Good energy, amazing stories. So why don't we start with Lexa? You know, I really am intrigued by your story because we get a lot of patients ask about female issues. And if you wouldn't mind telling us some highlights of kind of where your story is and what happened, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Yeah, of course. So yeah, my name is Lexa Treml. I'm 24 and I'm from Denver, Colorado. I actually just moved here. I have always been interested in a plant-based diet. I've always been drawn to it. I kind of tried on and off throughout high school and college and didn't really have the support. At that time, I wasn't cooking for myself, so it was a little bit more tough. But as I went through college, I was kind of constantly sick or dealing with female issues like UTIs and yeast infections and bad periods and all of these things that are kind of taboo and just people don't talk about them, or they talk about them as being normal. After I graduated college, I had another kind of rough 6 months and finally got diagnosed with an ovarian teratoma, which is ended up being a benign tumor that was about 11 centimeters. So it's pretty,
Wow.
like my entire being. It was really scary. I was told by the surgeon that I may not be able to have children. I was 22 at the time.
Wow.
I was told that the surgery would probably fix most of it, or that they'd have to remove at least one of my ovaries. It was a really scary time. I had been doing research on a plant-based diet for up to 4 years at this point, but hadn't truly committed. That day, I came home from the doctor's office and I went fully, actually raw vegan for about a month. I have some mentors. Dr. Ruby Lathon is a systems engineer, PhD in Washington, D.C., who healed a cancerous thyroid tumor by diet alone, and then Serena Williams, other Olympians who follow a plant-based diet. So I immediately did that, and by the time I had my surgery a month and a half later, the ovarian cysts were gone, a lot of the tumor had cleared up, I didn't have acne. About 6 months after maybe 8 months after the surgery, I ran my first 10-mile race and then a 15-mile Spartan race after that, because I finally had energy. I no longer had the chronic fatigue. I no longer had the knee pain. I just totally transformed my diet, and it started with that day that I said, I'm done feeling this way. I'm done people telling me that I was just anxious or that stress is common. I said, this isn't the way to live. And I think I was right.
Well, you were exactly right. And congratulations for being so young and making this transition. I mean, I think I was, I don't know, 40, 41 when I did this. So that's fabulous. And so with the surgery was successful and
it was, I had about 10% of one of my ovaries removed, but they said at the beginning that I may have to have a full hysterectomy. So for me, that month of really following my intuition paid off.
wow, and great. No, that's fantastic. So I have a lot more questions for you, but we'll go ahead and jump on over here to Kimberly. And
Okay.
you have a little bit more complicated history as well. So can you share with us your story, please?
Yeah, my daughter and I opened a coffee shop together so that we could get her through college. And so we had an end date in mind. And once she graduated, we decided to close the shop, luckily, because I had just turned 50 and I started feeling really bad. And at first I thought it was menopause, but my menopause symptoms were really mild. Like I didn't do any type of hormone therapy or anything like that. And so it started to become obvious that that's not what it was. And so it took me 3 years and I went through 12 doctors and I finally got a diagnosis. About 2 years after I started feeling bad, all the hair on the left side of my head started falling out in clumps. And so it was my mission to save the right side of my head. And so, and I'm really grateful that my hair fell out because I would not have known that I was so sick. And I don't think that I would have pursued a diagnosis as hard because at the time I had really long, thick, curly hair and I was kind of famous for my hair. Like I couldn't go anywhere without people recognizing me. And I felt like that was my best feature. And I felt like also that it was the universe saying, look, we're going to take your best feature away until you figure out what's going on and until you can get the information that you need to help others. So I was grateful for the diagnosis finally. And so I just started doing a ton of research. You know, like I said, I'm in Amarillo, Texas, and I was by myself. And, you know, even today people think I'm crazy. I mean, they're like, what? So anyway, I found a book by Brooke Goldner. She wrote that book, How to Cure Lupus with Supermarket Foods, and I ordered it. And then I thought, that doesn't make any sense because, you know, my first job out of school was at a health food store. I had never heard that, never. But I thought, you know, I don't have anything to lose. I got a death sentence. And so I'm going to try it. And so I read that book in just a couple of hours because it's a quick read. And I went strict. And I remember talking to my doctor because she wrote me a bunch of prescriptions. And I said, I'm not taking any medication. I'm not going that route because my mom was diagnosed with MS. And she passed away due to complications of MS when she was 52.
Wow.
And I saw how quickly she went down after she started her medications. And I just wasn't going to go that route. And so 5 weeks later, I did not test positive for lupus. Wow. And then it took about a year for my hair to start growing back. And I also had Raynaud's since I can't ever not remember having it. I thought I was born with it. And my doctors would say, you know, it's just a circulatory issue. It's not going to kill you, but you're going to die with it, you know? So I just lived with it. But immediately, I want to say within just a few days, I started feeling a lot better. So, and it's just gotten better since then. So I'm grateful and hopefully, you know, we can get the word out to others to let them know that they have a choice. You don't have to go that traditional medication route. So
And how many years ago was this?
I was diagnosed with lupus. No, I got sick in 2015,
Okay.
and I got well in 2018, and I've been free of everything since then.
Wow.
Thankfully, yeah.
Yes. Lupus is a really tricky disease. It's
Yeah.
man, yeah, my aunt died at 44 of MS.
She
Actually not
did.
far from Amarillo in Hobbs, New Mexico.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah.
when I got the diagnosis, I was shocked because I've always been a cyclist, and I used to spend the summers. My goal every summer was to get 200 miles a weekend, and that's how much I rode. And I used to ride to raise money for the MS Society, the Cancer Society. I have a ton of century rides under my belt, and my diet wasn't like my mother's. So she lived on Cokes and candy, and she had a horrible diet. And the whole time I kept thinking, this has got to be your diet. This has got to be your diet. So in some weird way, I benefited from her bad experience, but because it just made me say, question everything. Don't believe everything. And I do think there's a place for modern medicine. I've seen modern medicine save some lives, but I don't think it should be a way of life. So I was angry when I started to get the truth. And so hopefully, we can spread the news. But
yeah, that's not an uncommon experience, right? So that's the beauty of physicians who really embrace both, right? You embrace conventional medicine, which absolutely has its place, and we're not between that at all. But the first and of course, and sometimes in conjunction, should be lifestyle medicine, which primarily focuses on the whole food plant-based diet, sleep, exercise, stress, all these things that we ignore in this world, in this society, because we've normalized chronic disease. Like, oh, it's normal for you to be on meds. Wait, you're not on medicines? You're unusual. What's wrong with you? So that's kind of where we're at. So I can understand the frustration. That's fabulous. All right, there's gonna be a really fun and difficult podcast for me because I have so many questions already. All right, Mr. Carl, you're next up. Can you please share with us your story? Because this is a good one too. Very good.
Well, first, I just want to say to Kimberly, we're avid cyclists too, and I attribute cycling to a big part of getting in shape and losing a lot of weight, which led me to plant-based.
That's awesome.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Yeah.
When I was in my never really ate well. I mean, there was no emphasis on eating well when we were growing up. We ate a lot of meats and greasy, fried, and stuff like that. Milk was supposed to be, drink your milk. Well, I drank a gallon of milk a day sometimes. I drank a lot of milk. I drank iced tea. I would gulp it down, big glasses of sweetened iced tea. And when I was in my 20s, I was in, I always had good health and everything was good. But the bad part about that is, in my mind, it's like, all right, I'm healthy. I can eat whatever I want. And so in my 20s, I drank a lot of beer. I played on 5 different softball teams. And, you might say, wow, you were exercising, but I more than compensated for any exercise I did afterwards, eating and drinking, and then had kids, and the kids, coaching them and just going everywhere. And we'd always be going out to eat after their games and stuff like that. And I blew up to about 230. I think I even got up to about 245 at one time, but I wasn't paying much attention to my weight. But what started happening is I had started to get up in the middle of the night. I had to go to the bathroom all the time. So I thought, boy, something's not right here. So I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, yeah, pre-diabetes, you have to, you have to start taking care of this. And at first I was kind of like, yeah, I heard him, but still in denial. It's like, I can't get the diabetes. But yeah, stupid. When you look back, I'm thinking like, what the hell is wrong with me? When you're young, so I started trying to cut back on things, but I really wasn't serious yet, until I went back, and then he said I had diabetes. So I stumbled on this book in the paper. They had an article on this guy that lived in Bucks County, which I grew up in Pennsylvania, and I lived in Montgomery County, and Bucks County was right next to that. And there was a book that this guy wrote. I read the article, and it really intrigued me. I saw his book going there, and I said, well, I gotta read this guy's book, because he had done pretty much what I was doing. He was, eating whatever he wanted, and he got high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and he had to do something. He didn't know what to do, and he's working as a contractor or something, fixing streets or something. And he stumbled into this health store, and he saw these kale chips there. And he started eating the chips, and he really liked them. And so he started taking bags of chips, and that's where he started his turnaround. And his book was called Raw. And he started a kale chip factory. That's a multi-million-dollar business now. Brad's Raw Foods, I believe, is what it's called. And he's got his, I see him down in Florida, the bags of chips. But he pretty much talked in his book about 80-20, which again, it caught my attention because I love meat, and I wasn't about to give up the things I eat. But when he presented it like that, he said, you don't have to be a vegan, or you do 80-20. That's what I did. It's perfectly okay to eat. So I started trying to do that. I started, but what I did was I cut out different things. I stopped drinking soda cold turkey, and I drank a lot of soda before, and I just stopped. Then I stopped sugar altogether. I stopped all sports drinks. Then I started this transition's been over a lot of years, and I did it at a slow pace, but knocking out the sugar is big. Knocking out drinks. Then I stopped fried foods. I don't, I would go to McDonald's, get a cheeseburger. Now I look at McDonald's, it's like, ugh. And I go in a grocery store, there's aisles in the middle. I don't go anywhere near that now. But I started getting better, like, because I was, I was cutting out the foods. Then I started cycling back in 2011, and I was addicted to cycling. I started riding, and I got hooked on it. And I was trying to ride every day. I was riding with different cycle groups, and we were doing 30 to 50 miles at a crack. I was going 5,000 to 10,000 miles a year, and that's when I started getting into shape. But I was still eating meat, and I was still drinking, but I did reverse the diabetes. I was on, he had put me on metformin and Lipitor, and he had told me, you can reverse this. And that's when I started doing all that other stuff. I reversed it. I went in, he said, your A1C, you're in range now that you're no longer considered diabetic. And he said, so I'm going to cut your dose of metformin. I said, wait a minute, if I don't have it anymore, because my goal is not to take any medicine.
Right.
No. So he said, well, you really don't have to take it. He was going to keep me on the medicine. And I said, do I really need to take it? He says, no, you don't really, if you feel comfortable, you don't have to take it. So I stopped that, and I kept riding, and I was in good shape. I was down in my 180s in weight. So then I started cutting back on cycling a little bit because I didn't want to kill my knees. There was a lot of hills where I was. So I thought I might be riding too much. Not that I didn't enjoy it, but I thought, I don't want to lose, I don't want to have to get new knees and everything later in life. So maybe ride, 30 miles a day instead of 50, and not so many centuries, and going up the hills and killing my knees. So I kind of slowed down on that a little bit. And one of my neighbors said something about pickleball. I didn't know what
Oh
the
my
heck it was.
goodness, pickleball. Pickleball's overtaken our house as well. My
I had
husband is.
no idea what it was, and he says he sees me riding my bike, and I'm coming back in the house because I ride early, and he's leaving for this pickleball, and he says, "Why don't you play pickleball?" I said, "I don't know. All I'm thinking is a bunch of old guys that can't move," and I'm like, "I'm not going to enjoy that." So he kept bothering me about, not bothering me, but he kept. And the next year, he sees me come. We came back from Florida, and he says, "You want to play pickleball?" I said, "Oh, I don't know if I will." So he says, "Listen, why don't you just come out tomorrow? You're not doing anything." Well, I went out there, and now I'm hooked on pickleball. And in fact, I go to the beach with. I have 3 people. A lot of people play, and you keep switching partners and everything while you're playing. And there's 3 guys that are 80 years old that play, and they're good. They move around. One guy was a swimming coach at, I think it was Ryder. He's got his name on the side of the building. I mean, this is how athletic, a swim coach, great shape. But these guys, they always want to go to the beach. They call me and they say, where are you on the beach? And we sit around like a round table on the beach, and we talk. And the one guy is a plant-based. And we started talking. My wife was having problems with irritable bowel syndrome and high cholesterol and all these things. So we started talking, and in the background, I had always wanted to try the plant-based, and I was getting more towards it. And as I take the steps, my palate changed, and now I'm in a different place than I was back then. So now I was really ready to do plant-based. He started talking about it, and he told us about the documentary, What the Health, right? And we're talking, we're picking his brain, and so we watched the thing, and we decided to do it for 30 days. And I said, I'm going to do it for really to support her, because she wanted to eat better, but I wanted to try it. And I said, I'm not necessarily going to eat plant-based. I might not. I want to see at the end of the 30 days, and maybe I'll go back. We were eating bison meat at the time. We had whittled it down to bison meat, chicken. That's all we were eating. We cut all that out. Felt great after the month, and stayed with it. In fact, he says, "You're still on it, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's really happy, because he said he tells a lot of people about this. And he said, you 2 really grabbed it and went into it and kept doing it. So now we've really evolved to where it's almost been a year now.
Awesome.
And now when you told me about this roundtable being on this, I thought, you know what? I'm going to give up alcohol until the day of the roundtable and see what that does. Because even though I felt great and I was in good shape, the alcohol, the weight fluctuates a little bit. And then, I'm reading about the alcohol, which it's common sense. I mean, it's not really good for you.
No.
But I'm thinking, like, if I gave that up with this plant-based diet. So we pretty much gave it up for the month. And then we started juicing. I didn't realize how great juicing is. So replaced the alcohol with juicing. And now after pickleball, we drink like 8 to 12 ounces of we make it right here. Unbelievable. I never felt better in my life. Plant-based, energy, clarity in the head. And my dream is to be a professional, a senior professional pickleball player.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to do. And down in Florida, we're right there. I play in Naples all the time. So I'm right around the pros and everything else. So that's the dream. That's the goal.
Oh my gosh. Well, now I understand your connection. So Lexa's in Denver. I'm in Colorado. When we have Kimberly who's in West Texas, and now it's the pickleball. So pickleball, my husband's name is Pat. We call him Pickleball Pat because it has literally overtaken our lives.
Yeah, I know. It's addicting, just like the cycling was.
I played a few times. I am busy trying to work and run on a startup he just like, it's like, he goes, I'm going to go pick up. I'm like, whatever makes you happy. And he will do 4 to 6 hours at a time, almost daily. I'm just like, whatever makes you happy.
Did 4 hours today,
And
right before
actually,
this.
he went from 8 to noon today. Yep. So
8 to
we're
noon.
moving to
That's exactly
yep.
what we did.
There you go. And he watches pickleball, the champions, the different things on the floor. And he's like, oh, that guy is that guy. I'm like, I have no idea who these guys are. We're moving to California. He's like, there are literally pickleball courts like 2 blocks away. I'm like, okay. Anyway, so fun. No, I love it that we're active and you found joy. So if everyone, I would just unmute and we can just kind of do more of an interaction here. I think it'd be great. So these are great stories. So you guys can see you've got really varied ages, things that happen, different situations, but it all comes back to the common denominator is feeding our bodies with these amazing foods, right? So that always leads to the question that I always get asked: what are you eating today? Because if I don't ask you guys that, oh my goodness, I will be harassed. So please, who would like to go first? Lexa, you want to share what you're eating in a day?
Yeah, I can take it. And I also wanted to kind of just follow up on some things that Kimberly and Carl said. Kimberly, you said that you had gone to, I think you said 12 doctors. I absolutely relate to that. I had gone to the doctor almost every month. They put me on more and more medicine. They told me that I needed to go on anti-anxiety medicine. I'm like, I'm not anxious, I'm sick. And now I'm also anxious because you're telling me that you can't fix it. So that really, really resonated with me. And that is something that some of the people that I work with also have that same difficulty. And I think it does, for me, it definitely took that kind of that leap of I need to do this for myself. Like I cannot listen to anyone else. This is what I need. And that really resonated. And then Carl, I'm actually from Pennsylvania, from Fulton County. So there's another loop. And I love juicing. So I'll do my daily routine. Every morning I have between 16 and 32 ounces of lemon water. I just find that it's so refreshing in the morning, especially since I moved to Colorado. It's so dry. And then I do some sort of green juice, and then I'll have a really big smoothie after that. So I'll do like 2 bananas, blueberries, spinach, sometimes herbs like cilantro. I like dragon fruit, mango. I just do like a huge fruit smoothie. Or if I'm heading into the mountains, I'm a really avid rock climber, skier, backcountry skiing, trail running, something that has really grown since I've healed. It's been amazing. I'll have, if I'm going to the mountains, I'll have a big bowl of oatmeal with like chia seeds and blueberries, raspberries, bananas, honey. And then for lunch, I'll usually have either another smoothie if I'm like snacking on apples or dates, or I prefer to stay like high raw because it makes me feel awesome. But oftentimes I'll also just make like a rice and sweet potatoes, or red potatoes and curry, or like a big Buddha bowl with roasted veggies, potatoes, rice, and like that Trader Joe's dill sauce that's so good. And then for dinner, usually more of the same. I'll do I eat a lot of potatoes. I eat a lot of like squash, summer squash, steamed zucchini. I really like to do like pad thai or zucchini noodle pad thai. Yeah, and I've gotten so many recipes. I have the plant-based athlete book that I get recipes out of.
Great book.
Yeah, amazing book. Huge fan. I like to try new recipes frequently. Sometimes, and then for dessert, I'll have like mango parfait, or I eat just like so many apples, or sometimes I'll have some like dark chocolate. And then oftentimes I'll just like pick up a bag of those like veggie chips as well. When I'm traveling, I eat more processed food, but I found that the best I can do is just eat as many like big fulfilling like potatoes and lettuce and a whole plethora of colors of foods. And then I really like what you said, Carl, about the 80-20, because I follow that as well. If I'm eating like really well 80% of the time, I can't have that like food fear or get mad at myself for not being good enough. That was really, really important when I was healing, especially from my surgery, saying I'm never going to get better if I'm not perfect. I can't have that chocolate. I'm never going to get better. that was a huge momentum for me to say, I'm crushing it. A year ago, I was eating 4 eggs for breakfast and toast and butter and bacon, and here I am. I'm thriving. So yeah, that's my day.
That's fabulous. And it all sounds quite delicious right around lunchtime right now. Excellent. Kimberly, what about you?
Well, it depends on where I'm at. So I still fight candida. So sometimes something will set it off. Even stuff like nutritional yeast will set it off. So if I'm trying to get rid of that, then I do all fruit. I'll start in the morning with grape lemonade, and then I'll do a huge fruit salad at lunch, and I will add some nuts and some dates, a little bit of dates. I have to cut out the oatmeal and all that stuff. But if I'm training, then I start my morning with a big smoothie with about 75% kale and 25% fruit, chia seed. And then for lunch, I'll have a big salad, sweet potato, avocado. And then after training, I'll have some oatmeal and another smoothie usually. But I do a lot of plant-based cooking because when my daughter and I closed the shop, we had a lot of people that approached me for a cookbook. And so, and when I was just in the middle and I was about to finish that up, when I discovered all of that was so bad. So I converted all of those recipes. And if I get hungry for, you know, something that was bad, like I used to be famous for my shepherd's pie. So I converted all of that. And so right now I'm trying to get all of my favorite recipes and all of those old converted recipes into a cookbook that we can, you know, can share with my friends and family and stuff like that. So plus I'll have it organized in one place.
Yes.
But if I'm not dealing with candida, I do really try to do the variety of 30 different fruits and vegetables in a month, which is hard. It's not easy. I haven't made it yet. I've gotten to like 20, 25 maybe. So, you know, I'm old, so I'm still trying to repair my gut and repair all the damage that I did for, you know, 50 years. So it might, even though I'm not testing positive for anything, unfortunately I cannot cheat or I get sick. So, but when my friends and family ask me questions, I always say, ease into it. You'll be more successful. Don't try to be perfect because that's just not going to work. And, but for me, I have to stay really strict, like no sugar, no preservatives. I do all my own cooking now, which is, it's not easy, you know, to meal prep when you'd rather be out, you know, working in your garden or whatever. It takes a lot of commitment and you really have to want it. But I don't ever want to feel like I did before. And I don't want to feel like I'm not living my life. I'm not on my bicycle, you know, that kind of stuff. So that's unfortunately where I am. Not unfortunate. I'm very, very lucky. But I have one tip for you, Carl, and that is if you'll just try raising your seat just a little bit, you probably won't feel it in your knees so much.
I'm not feeling it in my knees. I'm just thinking if I keep going as hard, because I was doing 12,000 to 16,000 feet of climbing, and when I climb, I ride hard, and I just want to preserve, so I laid off it a little bit more, you know.
Okay,
Gotta save your energy for pickleball.
Well, you know what? I got to watch it with pickleball too, because that wears me down. That's a hard surface.
And there's a lot of twisting and turning actually. So that actually might be harder on the knees. So Carl, what are you eating in a day? Because you're active and I love that you're a guy too. So
I pretty much am eating the same things, and I've set Florida and New Jersey up. So now that the transition's the same, we have everything. We got a juice machine up here. We got a Ninja blender up here. So, and I set the pantry up, the fridge up, because that's the most important thing. You have to have your inventory's got to be all good stuff in there, so you don't go back to the other crap. But down in Florida, and I'll mix the exercise in too. But I'm an early riser. I get up at 4 in the morning every day. No alarm clocks. That's what time I get up. I'm an early guy. I get up. I take 3 supplements. I take zinc, turmeric, and B12, and I drink it with lemon water. I think Lexa, you said you drink that lemon water on the empty stomach. I do that, and then I'll have now I'm drinking tea every day. I was drinking a cup of coffee, but now it's oolong tea every day. And then ride the bike. It's about 3/4 of a mile. It's a community gym. And I spend a half hour in there. I row for 5 minutes, and then I do these other like mid-section, core section things to keep the back loose for pickleball. So I do about a half hour in there, and then I ride 12 miles to Naples, and I play for an hour and a half to 2 hours of pickleball. I try to limit it because of the knees now. Like I said, I'm trying to preserve them. It's not that they're hurting, but playing 4 hours a day, I do start to feel it a little bit. So the reason I played today is because my wife was playing and she wanted to play. She took the day off, so she wanted to play. So I stayed as long as she did. But my general thing is to play 5 games and be done. I feel great after that. Don't feel like I'm wearing it down. And then I ride my bike 12 miles home. And before I go to the gym, I eat steel oats with blueberries, hemp, chia, flaxseed, bananas, blueberries, blackberries. I fill that bowl up, and that's what I eat at like 6. Well, I leave for the gym about 4:45, so about 4:30. So then when I get back, I just started juicing about a month ago. I do the juice, and the juice has celery, apples, lemon, kale, parsley, carrots. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything, but you get
the picture.
So I do that, and then around 12, kale, spinach. I'll either put tuna in it, or beans, or potatoes with jalapeno peppers. I think I said kale, spinach, onions, tomatoes, and avocado. And back to, I think Lexa, you said you ate eggs every day. I was eating 3 eggs and a half avocado every morning. And my friend Al, that got me into the plant-based, told me that's too much, because I was going to go back to eating eggs because I felt great after eating eggs. And that's what I did before I went out and did exercise. But now I'm off the eggs. I'm not going back to them. And then around anywhere from 2 to 4 o'clock, we eat dinner, and it's either salmon, usually salmon like once a week, or pasta. Because I feel great with the fish. That's why I continue to eat fish, because I've always felt good after a fish dinner, and it seems like my metabolism, everything is good after that, and it's good for your weight. But salmon once a week, cod maybe once a week, pasta or beans or potatoes for dinner. And then don't eat anything else. It's kind of an intermittent fasting that I started doing. And it's not quite the 18, 16 hours you're supposed to. So sometimes it is, but if we eat at 4 o'clock, I'm eating again at 4:30 the next morning. And then the rest of the day is, chill and, get other things done. And I did want to say that the plant-based athlete, Lexi beat me to that one. But that getting ready for a pickleball tournament, I don't know where I saw the book, but it really caught my eye. And I'm like, geez, I should read this and really get this diet in tune with what I do. And it was a great book. I really learned how to eat leading up to, you might have to play anywhere from 8 to 12 matches in a tournament. So you need a lot of stamina, and I play singles. So I'm really working. So I read his book, and it really helped me out getting ready for tournaments. And now I really think about I prepare the way I eat the night before, the day of, and the week leading into it. Oh, that leads me to one other thing. The only thing I drink now is cucumber water, because I didn't want to add things to my water for electrolytes. So what I do add is cucumbers. I think, you know, it provides electrolytes. It's a hydration, and we do zero water, and we have a filtration system in Florida. We filtrate the water and make sure that that's good. And then I have a glass pitcher. I put fresh cucumber in there, the fresh water, and that's what we use. We take it to pickleball and everywhere else. And the only other thing is tea, oolong tea in the morning. So that's pretty much it for me.
So there's quite a variety here and a different activity levels, and so it really gives, you know, hopefully the audience some ideas of how they can fit this into their life if they haven't yet. So I would say, you know, another question that might be really helpful is to ask each of you, what advice would you give someone who's considering a plant-based diet? Lexa?
Sure. Yeah, and one thing to add as well that I left out, I'm a little bit like Carl. So I don't eat gluten at all. I've cut that out. I just realized my body is better without it. I do occasionally, I also don't eat soy, or try not to eat soy. But I do sometimes have like venison or fish when I'm going out to eat. It can be really hard to find plant-based options. So oftentimes I'll do fish. But to go into that, going out to eat can be difficult. That's kind of my advice. Especially I'm 24. Most of my friends like are often out at bars, or, you know, it can be hard when you're like traveling for work. I travel fairly often. One thing I'll say is that it's actually getting a lot easier to find places that will serve plant-based food. It's also, I found that I can ask, for example, if I'm out to dinner at a restaurant, I can say, I have a dairy allergy, or I also prefer not to eat eggs or gluten. Do you think you could ask the chef if he can make just like steamed potatoes and vegetables or something like that? That's been very helpful, especially at times when I was really, really deep in my healing. Another thing is, I had some advice from a friend. I said, what do you say when people, without being so preachy, like it's the best thing ever, why don't you do it? She said, I prefer to eat a plant-based diet because it makes me feel really great, and that's it. That was one thing I really struggled with, is having a good excuse, and you don't need an excuse. You just need to know that nobody can make your body feel as good as you can by the decisions of what you put in it.
Very good, sage advice. Absolutely. Kimberly?
Well, I'm a mom, so I would say eat to live, don't live to eat, and just do the damn thing. That's what I tell my kids, because I want them to be healthy. So
Awesome. And how old are your kids?
they are 38 and 34.
And have they embraced the diet yet?
They've gone plant forward.
Okay.
Both of them will eat. My son is a huge fisherman, so of course he's going to eat his catch for sure. But they're much more conscious now about eating fruits and vegetables. My daughter, she wanted me to get the COVID vaccine, and I said no. And she said, and then, you know, she came at me with these teary eyes, and she said, I really want you to get the COVID vaccine. And I said, I tell you what, I will get it if you'll go plant-based for 6 weeks. And she said, I'll do it. And she did it. So she appreciates it a lot more than she did before she did it, because she's also very athletic, and she drinks a lot of beet juice to get her through, you know, those intense workouts. So yeah, she appreciates it a lot more. But yeah, and I honestly, I know for sure being preachy does not work. Being arrogant doesn't work. So I'm just joking, you know, when I say I want my kids to do the damn thing, but that has never worked for them. So all I can do is walk the talk. So Even, you know, when I'm out among friends or whatever, I don't cheat. There's always a way to get a salad. There's always a way to get a bean burrito or, you know, whatever. There is a way to do it. You just kind of have to plan a little bit ahead.
Yeah,
But
I haven't eaten meat or dairy in 10 years. When I've traveled
congratulations.
all over the country. I've been to Africa, Uganda, in the middle of nowhere land. So yeah, no, you
Yes.
absolutely can. It's just a matter of planning. And I've just, for myself, I have no desire to eat animal products. Because for me, it was started out just as a, not from health reasons, but just because a patient switched to plant-based diet from my suggestion to give up meat and dairy because she wasn't feeling well, just because
Yeah.
she said meat and dairy upset her stomach. And what ended up happening was in 30 days when she came back, her daughter, who was 16, actually removed the food from her diet as well to support her mom. She stopped 2 ADD meds on her own. And that started me in the
Oh.
rabbit hole. Yeah.
Oh my
yep, and
gosh, that's awesome.
and so it went down that track. And then I had a lupus patient that I worked with to about 2 weeks later. And she did phenomenally well in a matter of weeks. And I went home overnight and cleaned out everything with 3
Wow.
teenagers and my husband and went plant-based and never looked back. And so now the kids took their own time, but at home we were plant-based. I said, if we go out, you guys do what you want. But over
Yes.
time, they all moved to that plant-based diet. But yeah, but I haven't had meat or dairy and nor fish or anything like that in 10 years. So it's
Yeah.
it's very possible. And I've lived all over this country and traveled
Yeah.
all over the place. So absolutely you can. But I totally can appreciate the difficulties. And trust me, it's much
Yeah.
harder a decade ago. But now, yeah, you can find good stuff anywhere. And people, they love to actually, they
Mhm.
entertain. I've been in a steakhouse in Chicago and I said, there was no plant-based like forward restaurants where I was, and I was on foot and I sat down and I was like, you know what? I know they have broccoli and a potato. So I asked them, I was like, I don't eat meat or dairy, as I'm sitting underneath literally a steak knife plaqued on the walls, like, you know, of different customers who
Yeah.
make big steaks, like an Amarillo, like the big steak challenge.
Yeah.
And yep. And so they were so tickled. They brought me this huge thing of the most fresh vegetables and this wonderful sweet potatoes. So honestly, some of my best meals were in a steakhouse. So but
That's
yeah,
awesome.
absolutely. So I agree with you. Yeah, you can,
Yeah.
it's up to you, and you know, you can embrace as much of it or as little as you want, but every step forward and closer to 100% is absolutely where you'll see the significant
Well, I was
improvement.
in Rapid City, South Dakota, and they had
Oh,
this
of all
one,
places.
they had one vegan option. And so I just said, okay, I'll take this. And he said, are you going to eat that? And I said, well, that's my option. He said, no. He said, we have plant-based chefs in the kitchen. I'll bring them out. And so you should have seen what I got.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it was delicious. But sometimes if you'll just say, you know, hey, I'm plant-based,
Mhm.
there's probably somebody in the kitchen that can't wait to, you know,
Mhm.
serve up.
Experiment.
Yeah.
Yep. And
But
that's
I
where
do,
embrace like Ethiopian and all these different other types of foods, you know, other
Yeah.
cultures, they're delicious. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
I will say, I've lost some friends though, you know, because I'm in Amarillo, Texas.
that's true.
And I did get plant-based certified, and I posted my certificate on Facebook, and that second there were about 10 people that were like delete.
Really?
Yeah, because they're in the cattle industry. And
Oh,
so
interesting.
yeah, and some of my friends, they even though I say, you know, you get whatever you want. We can go to a
Mhm.
steakhouse if you want. I can find a salad, or like you said, a potato.
Mhm.
Things are a little different.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's fine, but
I mean, you know, honestly, at this point, I find it entertaining to see those who will engage in conversation about it and those who won't.
yeah.
As a physician, I have a little bit more weight in the
Mhm.
sense of what I'm saying in my experience. I mean, I literally started a company and sold it. It's all about
Yeah.
providing plant-based medicine. And so, you know, it's an interesting conversation amongst people.
Mhm.
Most people are just curious and you just share with them your story. And honestly,
Yeah.
your stories of all of you are just phenomenal. And then just sharing, you know, the delicious food on your plate. They see these beautiful colors. They're like, that's so intriguing. The eyes are drawn to those colors and the textures and the tastes. And so I find it's not too hard to at least have people move in that direction. Maybe it may take them a while to fully embrace it, but it is really fun to see people get better. But absolutely.
Sure.
But But Carl, please share with us your advice for anyone thinking about embracing a plant-based diet.
Kimberly mentioned beets, and I forgot to mention that goes into my juicer too. And beets, I didn't want to
Fantastic.
leave that out because that's a great food.
Oh
But
yeah.
I had success over a length of time, and my advice would be, because I'm telling you, you would have never thought that I'd ever be plant-based, but if they start, and it's tough when they're younger. You get a little better with this stuff as you get older, but you start with one thing at a time and you do it step by step. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm in a different place than I was back then. And the reason I'm in a different place is because my whole lifestyle has changed, and now it's pretty much based around what I eat and exercise. So, it started out with sugar was the biggest thing. Everybody, it's addicting. You get rid of sugar, everything changes. And once you get that out of your system, and I'm telling you, they brought me a Coke one time when I was out with my my sons after a baseball game, and I was talking to them, and I didn't realize they brought it. I told them unsweetened iced tea. They brought a soda, and I'm talking, and I went to taste it, and I took one sip, and I was like, oh God, yeah. I mean, this is something I used to love. So, your palate changes, your mindset changes, everything changes, but one thing at a time. And you're not going to go from eating meat every day and eggs every day to plant-based like that. It just doesn't, in my mind, that's not going to be successful. But if you give up one thing at a time, you don't have to wait a year before you give the next thing up. Give it a month with this thing, and then add something else, and then something else. And then eventually you're going to be in a place where I was ready to go plant-based. I was ready. I mean, because that's where I was in life. And it was easy to go plant-based. In fact, I'm not having cravings to go back. So that would be my advice. Take it one step at a time, and there's no rush. And don't treat it, I'm on a diet, like there's some kind of reward at the end. This is your diet. You're not on a diet. This is your diet. This is what you eat every day. And they have to get that mindset. It's very important. And if they do things that way, it'll last.
No, 100%. The mindset is absolutely key. I tell people, so much but it is occurring in this mass between your ears. It's literally 3 pounds. Will dictate the quality of your life, the length of your life, so many things.
It's two things.
Yeah.
I tell people this all the time. It's diet and exercise. There's no way of getting around it. That's how you have to do it. Now, you can make it easier by the way you do it, but there's no magic pill anywhere. This is what you have to do. You have to do those two things. They work hand in hand. If you do those two things and you do it correctly, none of this, I'm going to do it for 30 days, even though I said I did plant-based, but I was already I was just doing it as an experiment. But if you do it that way, you will be successful. And stop trying to take shortcuts. Change your lifestyle. Eat. Get your kitchen set up so you don't have all that stuff that's going to mess you up in your closet. Because everybody has weak points. You're having a bad day. You're hungry. Usually when you're not doing anything is when you break down and you're like, oh man, I really am hungry. Now you can get hungry, but if you don't have it in your house, you're probably going to say, skip it. I'll get through it. But if it's in your house, you're going to have that day. You're going to open it up, and there's the Doritos, and that is really tough when you have kids, because it's in the house. You're not going to stop, feeding them everything and expect them to be fully plant-based. At least I didn't. Maybe you could.
That's pretty easy. I put it all in the garbage can. We didn't have a lot of that processed stuff, but honestly, I was raised in a home that you'll eat what's there. And I was in the military. I was like, listen, this is what you guys got. So they never questioned me, honestly, because I didn't run a militant house. I've got great kids, but I was like, yo, dude, I am busy. I'm a physician. I was in the military. I had 3 kids in medical school. This is what you got. So that was easy for me because I felt like I was, you know, my husband, he's happy to eat whatever is in front of him. He's like, whatever. But the kids, I really had no problem. Like, listen, I have to raise you and teach you these healthy habits. So what's in this house is what is going to be best for you. And I was happy to educate them about that. So I had no problem throwing out what little bit we had, but we didn't have a lot of sugar. We didn't do sodas, that type of thing. So yeah, I do hear you. Some people do struggle with the kids, and especially if they're older, but mine were
Peer pressure with
13.
them.
Yeah, mine was 13, 15, and 18. Yeah, but I said, you know, when you guys go out, you'll do what you want. I'm not going to say, you know, follow you around like a helicopter parent, but I will tell you what's here is what you're going to get, and it's going to be healthy food. I did allow them to give me, you know, interesting feedback. I upped my game in cooking, right? It's like, you tell me if this is good or bad. And they rejoiced when they could tell me it was horrible. But when they would go back for seconds, I'm like, something's working here, you know, and that was just my challenge. We had a lot of fun, but really it is a matter of your own personal dynamics, your spouse, if they're supportive or not. Absolutely. Everyone's household is different, but I do encourage parents to try to own as much of that as they can, especially if they're little. You know, they don't need, why would you feed anyone you love the junk food that made you sick? That makes no sense to me as a parent or a physician. And so, you know, it's hard to hear, but gosh, you know what? You're teaching these kids the foundations of their health. And we have 20% of kids now who are obese, and they're hitting diabetes in their early teens. Sometimes, you know, I've seen a 12-year-old with type 2 diabetes. It's a big deal. So
Yeah, if I had it to do over again, I would definitely.
Yeah.
Because I was eating that way back then, and I didn't everybody hears that this stuff's good, but
yeah,
until you actually start really focusing on it.
I get it. Nobody teaches you in medical school. I mean, these
So
are,
you get sick.
yes. I appreciate it 100%. Yes, we're all in our struggles, and gosh, you know, I wish they could have given us a manual on parenting. It would have been really easier, you know, but as the kids grow, you know, I got one that's a physician herself now. She's in her own family medicine residency in Boston. She's plant-based. She's going to share and change thousands of lives, because I hope that I had some part of pushing her to understand and listen. And you know, she was 18 when we started this, and she was like, you can do what you want, Mom. I like my cheese. I'm like, well, let's talk about cheese. You know, the boys are a little easier. They were home for a little bit longer, but no, I totally appreciate that. I love talking to parents about this, but my favorite one though, I had another physician tell me, we were talking, I was asking him if, you know, is your whole family plant-based? And I knew he had a couple of kids. I didn't know how old. And he goes, well, yeah, but the kids are still struggling. They're doing their thing. I was like, oh, really? I'm thinking they must be teenagers, right? Because they can have access to a vehicle and go drive or earn their own money. And he's like, I said, how old are they? They're like 4 and 6. I was like, wait a minute. Who's running the house here? Is it you or the kids? Because he's like, well, we don't want to deal with them. I was like, listen, you're a physician. Number 1, you're a plant-based physician. Number 2, number 3, they're not even entering primary school yet. I was like, why are you allowing them to eat these foods that are going to cause addiction and lead them down the path of this processed foods? And I was like, and he's like, you're absolutely right. I'm like, yeah, come on, man. So, you know, I'm just harassing him, but you know, that's kind of where I feel like we need to kind of just push the boundaries and question people and ask them. So, but you know, I love that all your stories and your experiences, and I love the different approaches, because I feel like you said, not everyone's going to have the same journey. 100%. I've seen this over thousands of patients, but it's also fun to connect with other people in different parts of the country who share the same mission and desire and just want to see people get better. So I think that's fabulous. But any final words you guys would like to say? I thank you for your time. I know I've already taken you over an hour. You're all good? Excellent.
Everything's great.
Excellent. Well, continue enjoying your pickleball. I will look for your name in the senior championship. I will let my husband know.
A little time, might take me a year.
All right. That's all right. That's okay. I feel like you would be the one who could actually achieve that for sure. And Lexa, maybe we'll run into you in Denver. Maybe we could set something up to meet in person. That would be fantastic.
That would be wonderful. And Kimberly and Carl too, this is so motivating. I'm so grateful to have spoken with you all. And Lori, this is awesome.
Yeah. And then Kimberly, if I'm ever back in West Texas, I'm not sure when that'll happen. I will definitely look you up, and we can go and harass some chef at a restaurant. Say we have 2 plant-based meals, please.
It would be great if all 4 of you would pass through and, stop. Maybe we can have a meeting sometime.
Yeah,
It'd be
absolutely.
fun.
Well, if you're ever,
Yes.
I'm going to be in Mission Viejo, California, so it's south of LA working. And if you guys are ever in Southern California, please check us out. So this is great. So
Yeah.
thanks, everyone. I really appreciate your time. And thank you again. And this, everyone listening, please, share this with someone. I'm sure there's someone here. We've got different life experiences, different illnesses, different philosophies, different parts of the country. Surely somewhere, if there's someone that you really want to share these stories with, please do. And check us out at mora.com. Sign up for our waiting list. We're working on building our circles or our groups in Florida, Ohio, and Texas right now. And we will be accepting insurance. So we're working in that very, very quickly. So thanks again for listening. Thanks for watching. And I hope you enjoyed that video. Before you go though, please hit the subscribe and alert buttons so you don't miss out on any of the amazing content we're working so hard to provide you. We upload a new episode of Health and Mora with Dr. Lori Marbus every Friday. Now, if you'd rather listen to the podcast, you can find us on all the major platforms such as iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and even Spotify. If you're looking for amazing resources to help you start and sustain a plant-based diet, exercise, recipes, or anything wellness, we got you covered there too. Because at Mora, we actually provide physician-led support groups to help people live happier, healthier lives free of metabolic disease. Don't forget to check out our website at mora.com, and thanks again for watching.